two topics I want to cover. First is just chaos itself. Also, the chaos is used in music since about around the 1930s to compose what's called aleatoric or chance music. Some of you will have heard of John Cage. Just nod if you've heard of John Cage. Okay, yes. Great. So some of you will have heard of a piece of music called 4 minute 33 seconds, which is 4 minute 33 seconds of silence. If you've listened to any of his other music, you'll understand why it's probably one of his better known pieces. So we're going to touch on that. And before coming down, when I was asked to do this, I wrote out, my wife finally suggested I write down just 3 days of being on the road in Ireland, doing covers and doing original gigs as well, or else write about the trip to Russia, which we did several times. We can't go anymore because somebody's throwing all the toys out of the pram over there. But I really miss going over to Russia because it's just a wonderful place. Anyway, chaos. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Chaos is a state of complete disorder and confusion, which can also refer to the unpredictable behavior of complex natural systems or the primordial state of matter before the universe was ordered. So says AI. Okay. So if you want to really pick something from chaos, ask AI. I don't know if you've ever asked AI a mathematical question or asked it a musical question. Doesn't know yet. It makes an attempt at it. But it's us answering ourselves, really, when you look at it. So, the term can be used in many contexts, from a literal description of a messy room to a concept in mathematics, mythology, and even specific historical events or creative works. Picture, for instance, workspaces. A desk covered in papers where the owner knows exactly where everything is. Seems like chaos, but the owner has order behind it all. I know when you work in an actual business environment, you're expected to keep your desk clean, but if you're a writer, you live in chaos in your workspace. I create music. I create music in the attic of the house, all different types of music. And I'm surrounded by bazookas and guitars and synthesizers, and it's just absolute chaos in there. My wife Anya hates going into the attic because she just wants to see order. So a tool shed appears in complete disarray, yet the owner knows exactly where each tool is, or at least the general area that it's in. Anyone who's ever worked in a tool shop will know spanners are there somewhere. And there's more other odd spanners in a box somewhere gathering dust, but you know where they are. Creative processes. Artists, designers, or writers who thrive amid apparent disorder because it fuels their ideas. You don't think that way as an artist. It just happens to be that way. But sometimes I order the space. I'll spend a half a day, not often, but I'll spend a half a day putting order on it. And I find it changes what I create. Because you can sit down and write a piece of music using mathematical equations like the space between two notes on a piano. They're called intervals. And so minor seconds will give a certain human emotive response, etc., all the way up through the intervals. But you don't necessarily have to write that way. You can sit and just get the feeling. You might not have the feeling that day, but when you get the feeling, straight away you want to get up and you want to start recording and writing and creating this piece and try and capture that emotion or capture this feeling. Or anyway, systems or teams, groups that appear to operate spontaneously but are actually guided by flexible, adaptive structures. A band is a great example of that, especially good bands. Bands, when they start out, they create complete chaos when they're in a rehearsal room. But over the years, they've discovered they have to learn theory. When you apply theory to it, the structure starts to form. The spaces in between the notes start to happen. When you have spaces in between the notes, the chaos can sing because you create spaces for the harmony to breathe, for the harmony to harmonize with other notes, etc. So, jumping on from that. I have a chaotic mind. You've probably worked that out at this stage. This is a normal musical tablature. 5 lines, 4 spaces, known as the stave or staff. Okay? This is a typical Irish tune that you would see of the tens of thousands of them that are listed online.
It's not connected.
Oh, cheers.
We'll do a roll of Killet, okay?
Okay. Same thing again. This is a Jewish tune. Don't know the name of it. But this is a Kosidel, or no, okay, no one knows what that is. So we'll scoot on again. Now, this is an example of chaos being used to compose music. So John Cage would sit down and he would find a little riff, a little motif that he liked the sound, maybe liked the sound of, or he thought maybe it was, he had a mathematical reason why he chose it. But each of, cheers on, each of these staves can be played against each other. So but don't expect them to harmonize with each other. John Cage's music was never meant to be melodious. It's meant to evoke another emotion from people. Okay? So this is a structure beneath the chaos. What sounds like chaos, this is the structure beneath it. This is from the back of an album that Brian Eno released called Music for Airports. Some of you have heard of it, no?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is on the back of the album. A lot of people didn't know what this was for a long time. This is his interpretation of the musical stave, tablature. So when you go back to this one, a lot of people here have learned music in school, 5 lines, 4 spaces, how notes look like on a page. So that looks normal to you. But when you look at this, it looks like you're trying to work out what it is. So both sides of the hemisphere of your brain are trying to work out what it is. So this is his notation for the music after he wrote it. This is from a piece that John Cage, this is one little section from a John Cage composition. The black dots represent the notes. The lines, basically, if we start over this side, we assume there's a note here. Say a saxophone player is playing it. They can drift up and down through the scale with their own interpretation. And as they come down to this point, we're too close to the screen, this point here, that's the note that they must reach. But all of this is interpretive. And this is a timeline. So they have 20 seconds to reach here from this point here. Okay? That's one way that was one system that he used. It was quite successful. This is a Greek composer. It looks like complete and utter chaos. His name is Yanis Xenakis. And this is what he handed musicians to learn, to play the piece of music. There is an index with it as well. It's quite complex, but this is what the music looks like as it's written. It's fascinating, isn't it? Imagine being handed that and asked to play it. So, I think this thing is amazing. In the 1950s, with the advent of electronics, John Cage was a fan of chess, and he played chess with other composers, and he came up with this idea with input from various other composers as well. But it was his main idea was to have a chessboard that, as you move the pieces, When the piece landed on a square, it would pick from a random selection of, say, 16 possible sounds, not musical notes, just actual sounds. There could be anything. It could be anything from somebody dragging stones across a concrete surface to the sound of the wind blowing through telegraph wires to the sound of a wheel being spun, just the sound of the actual. So he would get all these sounds together and they were put into the original one. And as you move the pieces obviously have spikes in the end of them and they sit into the holes, but they don't just create one sound, they create several sounds, but only one of those several sounds. So as you play the game, the sounds keep overlapping each other. Sometimes it sounds really harmonious, and then it would just have you move one other piece and it becomes complete discord. Now, I love discord. It's called discord is there's a musical interval. It's in the middle of the intervals called the tritone. And it's 6 notes apart between one note and the next note. And when you play it, it became known as Diabolus in a Musica, the devil's music, okay? And it was banned. You were not allowed to play this, banned by the church, okay? So if all the grunge music you listen to, Nirvana, the Pixies, it's in that music, it's there. It's always at the end of a motif, they'll stick in the tritone. They obviously didn't know what they were doing at the time, but it just sounded great. That's how it came. Anyway, this is a modern rebuild of it, a redesign of it. So the whole idea with it now is, rather than have the sound stored on the actual board itself, you've got these outputs, and you've got the outputs here, and you've got inputs. So you can have many different sound sources, tape decks, mini disc players, you can have drum chaos pads, keyboards, the whole lot, all wired into it, hooked up via MIDI, and the MIDI controller, when you put the piece here, even the composer doesn't know what's going to come out. It's just completely random, and it's complete chaos being used to compose music. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it has great effect. But the whole idea of it is, the whole idea of chaos in music is that there must be an audience. Like the 4-minute 33 seconds piece we mentioned of silence, that's what everyone's interpretation of it is. But the actual reason that John Cage created it was, it must be filmed or recorded with a live audience, because a piano player comes out on stage, sits at a piano, and at 3 points during that 4 minutes and 33 seconds, the piano player raises their hand as if they're going to play, and it evokes a reaction from the audience. The audience make noise, the audience make, and they shift in their seats, and that's supposed to be the music of 4 minutes, 33 seconds. Okay. This was an earlier version of the chessboard idea. So you have tablature written in each of the squares. In the early version, each of these pieces work together. These little motifs, they all work together. They might necessarily work with the next square and the next square, but as you're playing the game, there's players sitting by, or you have a piano, and when you move your square, you play one of the motifs off the square. So now, this is what we have nowadays. This is the MIDI window. Has anybody here ever used MIDI before? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That looked like you're going to put your hand up. No, 4, okay. The MIDI window, it's very simple. You've got a piano keyboard down this side of the screen. The play line, this red line here, that's moving across on the timeline. See, counts the minutes off, counts the bars off. And you just click in the MIDI window with your mouse. Click, and it selects a line corresponding to the note on the keyboard. But you also down here, you can adjust the velocity, you can adjust how long the note plays for. You can adjust the curvature of the note. It's so many things you can change down here. The panning of the note as this goes left and right in the speakers. And this is what I work with most days. I do still play real instruments, but when I come up with the ideas in the real instruments, if the instrument cannot write MIDI notation, I will then record the audio, convert the audio to MIDI, and it comes out like this. Or else I will play it on piano or some other instrument. That's what your MIDI window looks like now. So from the way I look at it is, from all of these days back in the 30s, traveling forward in time, with the advent of computers, electronics, we now end up with this. This can also be converted to score, so you'll see actual notation and hand it to players in an orchestra. But most of the time, producers, this is what Hans Zimmer works with this all the time when he's writing. And then he will output to score for notation, and that's put up. Somebody goes out and puts it in front of the orchestra. They see it for the very first time, and because they're so excellent at playing, they can play it and never ever hear it ever again. So they don't get time to rehearse. It's put in front of you. You're paid whatever, $500 a day to do this. So you get to play maybe 4 pieces during the whole day. You might get a couple of run-throughs of sections of it, but this is what you're working with nowadays. They don't put that in front of you and expect you to read that. They still put the notes in front of you, but you can sit down and you can play along with it. That is the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
If an AI writes a song, does it have meaning? Does it have value?
Does it have meaning or?
If I chop up some staves and roll dice for which ones and paste them together and give it to an orchestra to play,
Yeah.
without understanding any music, like a Chinese room,
Yeah.
that may have value. It might be chaotic. If an AI does it, does that have value?
Of course it does. I would think, I mean, AI is an ongoing discussion. So nobody really knows. I mean, AI is us anyway.
Yeah, it's the sum total of every music ever played, compiled together, and you roll a dice and choose some of it at random. Does that have value? Does it echo? Is it theft? Does it have soul?
Does it have?
This one is definitely one for the pub.
Yeah.
We'll talk later about this.
Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you.